Welcome everybody to the special meeting of the Simsbury Community for Care. Today is November 30th, and we're going to do a brief roll call of everybody who's here. And if you could just say hello, hi, indicate your presence. Sally Rieger.
Here.
Cheryl Cook, that's me. Becky Rosenthal.
Here.
Here. Kristen Formanek, our staff liaison, is here.
Present.
And Deb Schwager.
Present.
Is here. Excellent. I don't have a flag, so we'll have to wait.
All right, I've got this one. I've got the miniature one that I keep at home.
Oh, you are so handy. Okay, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, it is 5:41 on my clock, and we called meeting to order. Kristen, were there any public comments submitted?
There were none.
Excellent. I don't think we have any updates from the chairs, except for me. I'm probably going to do this later in Spirit Council, but my update was about Spirit Council. You'll recall way back in that other lifetime in March, the Spirit Council was our subcommittee, and we did a joint program on implicit bias at the library. It was very well attended. It was a super program, and I thank all of you who participated and watched because I think it was very important. The Spirit Council has done a lot of work since then, and they have since been appointed a town committee in their own right. So they will no longer be a subcommittee of ours, but they are their own town committee. But I think that's a success story. I think that's a great thing. And I think we can all be proud of moving that work forward. And I think it is very important that they got the town recognition for the important work that they're doing. So we don't have a quorum here, so we can't actually vote on the minutes from that March 11th meeting, but you did receive them, so we don't have to vote on the minutes anyway. If anybody have any comments about the minutes while we're here? Yeah, Becky.
I was left off the list of people present, even though I was mentioned in the text, so I was there.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, we'll fix that.
Yeah, the only reason I noticed was because it was like, oh, I'm mentioned here, but not there.
Oh, you're so right. Okay, I'll fix that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, the other thing we would have to vote on, but that we can't actually vote on, is the proposed calendar for 2021. You should have received a copy. So if you have any questions about those dates that you received, you can send me or Kristen an email, and we can talk about whatever the issue is. We will not be able to move that forward as an official calendar yet until we have a vote. So that's going to have to wait. So
call from Brad Fell.
Don't mind that. That's my husband calling.
Don't mind. No.
Pay no attention.
Pay no attention to that man on the phone. Chris Kelly isn't here. He's our subcommittee chair for the website. So we will have to wait on that. Kristen is going to give us an update from social services.
Sure. I'm not really sure where to begin because it's been about 2 lifetimes since we've met. But when the pandemic hit, social services in the senior center were very quickly thrust into action and changing the way that we deliver our products and our services. We've changed several times over the course of the last 8 months to accommodate, our needs, our clients' needs, the weather's needs. One of our biggest initial concerns was making sure that everybody had enough food. We really quickly recognized that a lot of our families rely on the free and reduced lunches, free and reduced meals from school. And even though the Board of Ed did a really great job to continue those and delivering them, some of our families, because of transportation issues, couldn't get there to access the food. And also, a lot of our families very quickly found themselves unemployed or underemployed. And until we received the additional stimulus payments through the IRS benefit or through the unemployment benefits, our families were really struggling. So one of the first things that we did was to increase our food distribution. Before the pandemic, we were distributing to an average of 80 households a month, and that was every 4 weeks. And since the pandemic has started and we've been delivering food, providing food, we are now up to 140 average households every month. And during the summer months, because kids were out of school and there were no summer meals, we increased our distribution to every 3 weeks instead of every 4 weeks. And now that school's been back in session, we've gone back to the every 4 weeks. We've gotten some really great partnerships out of this. We received a grant from the Granby Simsbury Rotary Club specifically to help with kid-friendly foods. So we've been working on that funding, and every month we purchase additional food supplies, food commodities that are what you would call kid-friendly. So lots of snack foods, fruits, oatmeal, pancakes, cereals, things that kids, like to eat and are easy for the parents to make while the kids are at home. We've also been working with the Salvation Army, and every month they've been delivering us boxes of food commodities. So that gives us, everybody that comes through our line gets an additional 30 pounds of food. And we've had a humongous success in working with Fitzgerald's, and a lot of our local businesses and partners have really stepped up to the plate to support us. And as you can imagine, it is costing us quite a bit of money because we are providing a gift card for the grocery store at every distribution. The reason for that is before the pandemic, when we were distributing inside, we were able to provide a fresh meat and a fresh produce and a fresh dairy item at every distribution. And we really can't do that outside. So we're providing a gift card for the dairy and the meat. And then we do purchase the produce. And during the summer, we also had our produce from Simsbury Farms, which was still delivered to us, which is great. And Cheryl had way too much fun with that produce.
It's giant zucchinis everywhere. Baseball bats.
And you're probably wondering, well, how did we distribute all of that food? Because we didn't want people to be in our building. We really wanted to protect ourselves. Our staff is an asset, and if we all got sick at once, then that would be obviously very bad. But what we've done is distribute outside up until last month, and we were doing a drive-through distribution. Great partnership with Public Works, and we had lots of volunteers, and cars would just drive through for 2 hours and pick up all of their food. And now that the winter months have come, we needed to change that, and we're going to be distributing inside with people coming up to the door one at a time and then taking a cart of food. So that's increased our need for volunteers. And we've been very fortunate with our current volunteers and also reaching out to some of our churches who wanted to partner with us. Our faith-based organizations are helping us with those volunteers. It's been an interesting turn of events. And the senior center also had to really move quickly to think of ways to help keep our seniors connected. We know that they're already vulnerable and there's already a really high potential for them to be lonely and isolated. So what we did, and what many senior centers are doing, is to provide daily Zoom experiences. We have a whole variety of fitness activities that are available on a daily basis. We've provided concerts, yoga, educational opportunities, you name it, we've done it. Trivia, we've had coffee chats, just whatever we can do to kind of make sure that we're staying connected. And we also continue to serve a hot meal every Wednesday. That was a meal that we traditionally served in our large dining room, and now we're doing that also through drive-through distribution. So once a week, we've got an average of about 60 seniors who come through and pick up their hot lunch. And if we have anything extra left over from our food distribution, we also provide that to them as well. Wanted to also add for the food distributions, both for the social services and for the senior center, we have some amazing volunteers that are delivering to our folks that are homebound and can't come out to pick up the food. Another interesting thing that we've been doing is that we're the pioneers, we're the leaders in the hand-sewn mask effort. And we have had some phenomenal volunteers who have been sewing hand-sewn masks since this began. And we've over 4,000 masks. And we've put almost 3,000 masks back out into the community. So we're very proud of our effort to help prevent the spread of the pandemic, prevent the COVID, and to keep our residents safe as well as our staff. And aside from the amazing things that we've been doing from the pandemic, it's business as usual. We were able to complete successfully a renter's rebate season. We did that all remotely and using the mail service. And now we're in our energy assistance season. And it's really challenging and a bit tricky, but we're doing that all remotely as well so that we can make sure that nobody's without their heat this season. And we are also right now working through our holiday season. We couldn't accept actual toys and gifts from our donors this year, so we're working on just gift card donations, and it's going really well. So that's kind of what we've been doing. We've also had one more thing. Sorry, we also had some changeover in our staff. Our long-term social services assistant retired after 30 years, and our senior center assistant was promoted to that position. And we just filled the senior center assistant position last week. So we are now fully staffed again. Yay.
Gee, it's too bad you don't do anything, Kristen, you know?
Holy moly. I am
You
one
just sit
tired
around
girl.
doing nothing all the time.
We are tired, but
I know you are. And you guys are doing a tremendous job.
thank you. It's
really
a
amazing.
privilege.
Well, I sort of gave you, does anybody have any questions for Kristen before we move on? Go ahead, Sally.
Is it more useful to you to get gift cards, or is cash just as useful? Is a check just as useful or better?
Yeah, so actually anything is super helpful. Donations of food, house cleaning supplies, toiletries are always welcome. If you provide a cash donation or a gift card donation, that goes back out to the client. And the good thing about a cash or a check donation is that we can then purchase the gift cards for the grocery store to use for our food distribution. But really anything, I'll take it, whatever you got.
Okay, thank you.
Except clothing.
Right. Okay. Our next item of new business was something I was kind of going to meld together 2 and 3, but I told you about the Spirit Council becoming their own town committee. But I thought that we might discuss one of the things that they're doing now for us. And one of the things they're doing is doing what we call the Let's Talk series. So once a month, they put on a program. They are focusing on different, like, they started with racial issues. They've done Hispanic Heritage Month. They've done Indigenous people. They have done, later this week will be HIV/AIDS Day. So there's a lot of topics that they're touching on and bringing in panelists, some community members, some from outside the community, but just doing Zoom sort of community chats. And I thought the format seems to be working pretty well, wouldn't you say, Kristen? Or
Yeah, I think that it seems to be working really well. We've got a great partnership with the library, and we've had a lot of good participation. So I think that we're all doing the best we can, and I think it's working.
But I thought maybe we'll give you guys some homework, but some of them are they on SCTV now? I'm not sure.
If they weren't live feed, I'm not sure if they are. We'd have to check that.
Yeah. But it's a format that I think we could work with. It seems to be working really well. We advertise it on Facebook and on other digital outlets for the town. And we could think about doing some programming that way until we can get everybody back in one place. What do you think about that?
I like the idea. I'm sorry, I'm a member of too many groups right now because I can't remember which. It was a town planning meeting.
Oh,
And-
yeah, the housing one.
Was it Hold the Door Open was trying to?
Yeah.
And like, I feel like the Hold the Door Open or whatever the group was and the town planning board were on exactly the same page. Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Was the sense I got, but that there's just like so little knowledge of it around town that, like if Spirit Council is trying to think about how do we increase our diversity and, if Community for Care wanted to also work that, work on that, it's something we can do to add to that. And I would imagine you would know how to go about that in a way that I have no clue. But I listened and I don't know anything about sort of how planning things work. But that's a thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think that there's a need for, or there would be a need for domestic violence situations, but I don't have a clue how we go about doing it.
I agree. Well, since we haven't been able to talk in person, but I have had information, from the police department and stuff that it is one of those crimes that is increasing during the pandemic. And people find themselves in high stress situations at home all the time. And it's not healthy for a lot of people. So I agree with you, Becky. I think it's something that we definitely need to address. And I know you and Karen worked really hard on the program we were supposed to put on in May.
Well, we just kept coming up with dead ends.
Yeah.
With the exception of that, I think she's your neighbor. I have notes somewhere.
Yeah. The Connecticut domestic violence.
Yeah, she was hopeful. She gave us hope that we could get something going.
We could go back to her and see if they're doing any virtual programming.
Yeah, and
I'm wondering, go ahead, Kristen.
oh, sorry. I was going to throw in. That's the one thing about these meetings. I never know when I can say anything. Like, is it my turn? Sorry about that. I was just thinking that this might be like a really good time to do a virtual program because I know before we were kind of tossing back and forth. Do we want something in person? Will people come? And this might be a more natural way to put it online.
I think so too. And this program in particular, I know Becky and Karen and I were kind of struggling with the format to protect those who would want to participate and to allow people to participate in an open and honest way without identification. So this might be a way that we could do that.
Yeah. I'm looking through my notes that are a jumbled mess. But you have contact info, yeah? Do you have her contact info so we can?
Yeah.
Can we take that action without a quorum or not?
Well, I don't think we have to vote on that, but that can just be new business we're going to move forward with, right, Kristen?
I think so. You're talking about planning a program, which doesn't necessarily require, I think, action that would need a quorum.
It was a program that the committee had already agreed to move forward on. So this would just be the same program on a different format.
On a different date.
A different day in a different format. I think it's a good idea if it's possible to get it together. You don't expect to encounter that. Nobody expects to, like when you're a parent. But one of our kids was involved in a situation that was very dangerous and left the house in the middle of the night. and has not been back there to live since. And it was
Wow.
complicated and not easy to get out of. But, it's college educated kids and going to school and working, and there you go.
Well, like I said, everybody's under a lot of stress now, so
Has preceded all of
if
that.
there's going to be a crack, it's going to show up now.
Yeah.
What do you think, Deb?
I've just been making sure I'm muted and listening and taking it all in. I'm just thinking, my mind was trying to go towards solutions around confidentiality, because, this is the kind of thing that, that working as a school counselor with parents and students and trying to get right people around tables and do it in the right way. But yeah, I mean, the need is absolutely there, for sure. It's hard for people, I think, in this format to want to contribute openly. It's difficult, but it doesn't mean that the need isn't there and that we shouldn't, give it a good effort.
What Karen and I had thought was, if we could get a varying group of people around the table to sort of provide the, to provide the dialogue and the information, and then it would be recorded and placed on SCTV, so that anyone who feels that they couldn't watch it live and didn't want their name to show up, even if they kept their microphone or their camera off or whatnot, which was not the world we lived in March when we were talking about this, but we kind of were thinking, it would go on SCTV, and then people could watch it anonymously whenever, wherever and whenever they wanted. I think that idea still holds for now, doesn't it?
I think so.
I think so.
Get a police representative maybe, and maybe Deb wants to speak from the school counselor point. So you're going to get volunteered very quickly when you're on this.
Yeah, as soon as you raise your hand, you're a speaker. That's how it happens here.
Different people who see it from different viewpoints, maybe somebody from the medical community, and we wanted somebody who works with clients who are in this situation.
No way.
Say again?
I don't know where that noise is
I don't
coming
know
from.
where it was coming from. I don't know if you.
Sorry, that's my 17-year-old daughter in the kitchen. Sorry.
At that meeting in March where we had both the Community for Care and the Spirit Council there, one of the Spirit Council members who was there was Tanisha Grant. Do you remember, Becky? I think, did I introduce you? Yes, exactly.
I found that.
So I think she would be willing to help us also.
So she's Director of Women's Services at the Community Renewal Team.
Exactly.
Do you want me to reach out to her? Or do you want
Sure, that would be great. I mean, I see her with Spirit Council, but I think you've been very involved in this, and I'd like to leave the planning all in one place so we don't cross purposes here.
Yeah, well, I got nowhere, so I can reach out to her. I'm still thinking your neighbor.
Yes,
Was
I
there?
can talk to her.
If you can check in with her.
I will.
And then do you know how to go about doing a program and getting it put on SCTV? Kristen or Cheryl, do you know?
Well, for Spirit Council, we've been using the library. The library has been very cooperative, and since they have been a Community for Care partner all along, I'm sure that would work for us also.
Okay. So what, we'd get like 5 or 6 people together in the library, and that's where they would record it?
No, we would record it from Zoom. So you can put your panelists on Zoom and you can record it from there.
It would be the same as what we're doing right now.
Right. Oh, okay.
But Cheryl, the Let's Talk series, is that live on SCTV or is that just Zoomed?
It's not. That's why we tell everyone at the beginning of each session, that it's being recorded, and if you don't want to show on the screen, turn your camera off, whatever.
Mhm. So, but we're hoping that this will
It would be
be
great
on
if we could
SCTV,
show it
correct?
live on SCTV. We've been trying to figure out a way where SCTV can use the recording and play it. We have some of the Let's Talk series recorded, so I would have to talk to Lindsay about that. I don't know.
Okay.
We could potentially, we can advertise. We just don't have many people noticing things before we have the meeting, but we could advertise and ask or let people know they could email any one of us in advance with a question,
Mhm.
and we would read it anonymously, obviously.
Well, we do that with the chat room function. We could make it so that only the administrator sees the chat room.
Oh.
So the chat room doesn't have to be public. So we've done it that way. So that seems to work. And the nice thing about using the library as a partner for this is that their website is very well attended. Like a lot of people follow the library calendar. So once you are on the library calendar, a lot of people will see it. And then it spreads out to the sort of the Simsbury community type calendars.
That's excellent.
So you would be providing resources for people? That's what I assume people would need. I mean, if you were aiming at families that were having a problem, you would give contact information as you have for other issues like that.
We would do that also. One of the things they have, I don't know if any of you have met Lindsay at the library because nobody's been there, but she is great with the resource list, and she will actually post the resource list during the Zoom meeting. So
that's wonderful.
Keep the list. And she could have it available through the library also.
Great.
I like it. I think the timing's good, and I think this mode will
Okay.
work.
All right. Well, let's try to move forward with that. So should we shoot for January? That would be our next meeting, but we don't have to have that as a program.
I think it's a good idea. I think the holidays are a time of increased, certainly in my personal experience, the holidays.
Unfortunately, yes.
So.
And I think in general, in terms of timing of things in January, in my experience, regardless of what the event is, you're better off being sort of late January and even a little bit into February, because there's just that sort of holiday hangover, if you will, and particularly around these issues. There's a little bit of holiday afterglow. There's those kinds of things. And then it takes people a little bit of time to sort of get up to speed in life. And sort of start noticing the things that are happening. That first couple of weeks of January just sort of flies, I think. You get toward the end of it and into February, and life gets kind of very quiet and wintry, and people hibernate. And I think it's a good time to maybe capture people. Just a thought.
What do you think, Kristen, timing wise?
I think that makes a lot of sense. Even with all of us, you have that, like you said, holiday hangover, and people aren't necessarily maybe like tuned back in.
Yeah, you're just trying to figure out if you paid the oil bill for December, if you're me, or what, for those first weeks of January, you're just trying to sort of get life back on a groove, much less do anything kind of extra.
Definitely. And I think kind of, in a cheesy way, leading into February with Valentine's Day, it might be good timing.
Okay. All right. Well, let's work on that. So Becky, you're going to get in touch with Tanisha, and I'm going to get in touch with Marcia. And Kristen, do you want me to connect with Lindsay? Do you want to talk to Lindsay about doing this, or?
Yeah, I can ask her. I don't think it'll be an issue. Yeah. And I sent you a question in the chat, Cheryl. I know before we
that interval. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Do you want to reach out to them again or see what we can do with CRT first?
Let's talk to CRT first.
Okay.
And then
Take it from there.
Becky and Karen tried really hard with them and
Okay.
The group, again, I didn't hear you, Kristen.
with interval house.
Yeah.
Oh. This is where I learned that what is it? The capture, no. Like a river shed has. What is it, Sally?
Oh,
That word that I had never
yeah,
heard.
it'll come to us. Don't worry.
Yeah, well,
It used to be on the tip of my tongue. It's the area from which institution has clients of a particular kind.
Hmm.
And there is a word for it.
okay.
Um,
Well, either
I'll
way,
interrupt you if I find it.
I think we should move forward with those organizations that were responsive the last time around, when we had to postpone this. So, what about Officer Devlin? I think she was going to participate, if I recall.
I think we could ask Detective Devon or we could ask Officer Harrington. Either one, I think would be really good. They both, I believe, they both had offered the cut of ties into it, the rape aggressive defense course that we ran last year.
Yeah,
So I
I'm not
think
sure
either.
how we do that by Zoom, but
No, I just thought, I was just making a stretch in my
Yeah.
imagination that they probably have some good background and
Yes.
are familiar with these types of situations.
absolutely. Both
And
fine
they're probably-
officers.
You're going to be one of the contacts that we give folks, right? Like,
Mhm.
when would you elevate to the point where you call the police department? When would you call somebody else, right? Kind of
And I
thing.
think it would be good for the police to be able to explain what that response looks like. Because I
Mhm.
think, a lot of people have misconceptions about what happens there.
Yeah. Do you want me to reach out to the chief and ask if we can have them join us?
Sure, that would be great.
I have a question that's coming to mind. So, one of the things that I think can be a barrier when there's so many intertwined and deep barriers to people seeking help. And one of them, a big one, is worry about what will happen to their kids.
Mhm.
That if they sort of, if somebody is forthright about what's happening in the household, that the kids are then in jeopardy with children and family services, for example. Somebody's going to come in and take the kids out. And that can be a big barrier. And, I'm thinking of my school social worker and her depth of knowledge around that kind of thing. And I'm wondering, I think that kind of perspective could be helpful.
That's a great point.
To understand, it's a big topic, so I don't know how focused this topic is going to be. And obviously I'm new at the table. But it should have some general areas of focus and like some dipping the toe in the water of a bunch of topics around it. How do you leave? How do you know when to, how do you know what constitutes abuse? How do you know when to leave or if you should leave? What about my kids? What about my home? It almost seems like it would be great. And again, forgive me if I'm like treading over ground you've already
No, that's
been
fine.
on and I just don't know. But I just know the role of family courts and the DCF is it's a fear point for so many. And it'd be great to have somebody who's got knowledge about how that actually works when really DCF is there to sort of connect people to services often and to do good. I think it'd be good to have somebody that can sort of speak to that area.
Do you have someone in mind?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking of my school social worker. I don't know what her obligations are. She's terrific. But I'm sure there's probably any number of people that could speak to that particular topic.
Kristen, do you run into that with in your work?
With these situations in general?
Making referrals to you know,
making
get
specifically
DCF
making
involved or?
we do frequently, mostly because we're not usually the first point of contact. So if the police are out on the scene and they think that something needs to be reported, they're obligated to report it first. Likewise with the school social worker. So typically I'm not the one that sees it first or hears it first. But we do from time to time. And I'm familiar with DCF voluntary services. I have in the past encouraged people to reach out to DCF, that there is a side that's not scary.
Yeah, I have too, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Becky, is there somebody at school maybe you're thinking of?
So our social worker lives not in town and she has a private practice as well and she has no time.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't, I'm almost 100% sure she would say no. But our schools, so I'm at Henry James, Deb,
Oh, you are? Okay.
yeah. Are you in Simsbury?
No, I'm in Canton.
Oh,
In fact. Yep.
Our school psychologist lives in town. But if you think that your social worker would be willing to come speak, like part of it is folks are like, well, why do I want to come speak at a Simsbury town meeting or whatever if I don't live there? People are funny about that. And it's, it's a little time out of their evening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends. And I don't know. Right now, I think she's a resource to understand. I would like to ask her. I'll ask her what she thinks is helpful information around this topic.
Yeah.
And
And
I think that's my first step. I want to ask her, Lori, what do you think is helpful information? She works, actually, she sees clients privately, as well as, working in a school, and she is busy. But I'm interested to know what she thinks is important from her standpoint, information for families, as she works with, families with just broad kinds of use every day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think doesn't Marcia have that sort of high level perspective of the different?
Yeah. Or she'll know. She hasn't been there that long, but her prior work would probably lend itself to that. So,
I mean, I can talk to our psychologist. Certainly our school, we end up calling DCF way more often than we would like to.
Right.
And, it is generally not a happy time.
No.
Parents are mad for the rest of the year often. Like, then you try to have a productive meeting later about something and they come in and they're still pissed off about, So, but I can see if Amy would be willing. I mean, her name's Amy Papali. She lives in Simsbury.
Right.
And
a school psychologist is coming at things, though I don't know. I know, it sort of comes at things in a different way and with a different kind of function often now in schools, very different from a school social worker.
Well, and
it's a lot of testing and special education identification.
Overlap because one takes seventh grade and one takes eighth grade. So they're doing all of those jobs.
Right. And us very much the same, us very much the same. So
I think it would be productive for us to ask that question that you posed, Deb, about what would be helpful.
That's what I would really like to know.
That,
what would be helpful?
Yeah, because I think that'll give us a framework.
Yep.
Because then even if she can't personally do it for some reason.
Right. And I'm not even suggesting, like I said, it's really just
then at least we know what to ask for when we're talking to other people.
When I think about domestic violence, what I think about is barriers to help.
Yeah. Well,
and the barriers
that's why we're
to
here.
help are all psychological.
Yep.
Most of the time.
And
one of those barriers.
Our mission is to provide information and resources.
Yeah.
And to give people, a pointer in the right direction.
Right.
Our mission is not to actually provide those services. It's to give people information on how to access them. So that would be great. Okay. So everybody has a thing we're going to do. Why don't we plan on, if you get information back or you need further, questions answered, you can send your questions to me or the information to me, and I will put it together in one format. And then we will have it all, we'll try to put that all together. We have a meeting in January. Do we have a meeting in January, Kristen?
Yes.
I have the list right here. Where is it? January 13th.
13th.
So if on that meeting on the 13th, we have, a framework, and some commitments from participants, we can discuss that with the rest of the committee at that point too. Does that sound reasonable? Gives us a little time to work that out.
I think so, especially with the holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's
Is this
all,
your typical meeting time?
this is we used to start at 5:45. It let people get from work to the library. But since that didn't happen this time, it depends on, we can, since we haven't approved our calendar yet, we can still be flexible.
And we usually meet on Wednesdays.
We usually meet Wednesdays. So this is really off of our normal schedule. So that's why it's a special meeting.
Okay.
And it's early because then our program usually begins at 6:30.
Right. So we usually have a meeting from 5:45 to 6:30, and 6:30 our program starts. So
Okay.
that's the normal
Cheryl,
course.
Cheryl, if you're doing a meeting that's a Zoom meeting, we needn't be constrained so much. Maybe I'm wrong, but if it were a live meeting with a program, the library schedule is part of what's constrained us, because when they started closing at 8:30, then you needed to start a little earlier. But if this is done ahead of time and it's going on SCTV, it'll be shown anytime, so it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
Right.
Right. We'll have to see what our panelists have for availability also.
Yeah.
So
So is it reasonable if we talk to these folks that we ask, like, would you be available sort of
Yes.
late January, early February?
Yep,
Just-
absolutely. I think we need to find out. So,
Okay.
maybe the person we need is, on vacation or something that.
Right. And we can check with them what time works for
Right.
them to do the presentation. They may prefer earlier or later.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Excellent.
So we all have our assignments. Kristen, did you want to talk about recovery friendly website or no?
I don't have a lot to update. Quick update. We're working with the Promise to Jordan. There's a lot
That's
of
how I
steps.
know you.
Oh, okay. Was I on one of the meetings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I have many hats. There's a lot of steps to take before we have the full recovery friendly designation. And one of the things that we're going to be working on is building their website. It's probably going to look a lot like the Community for Care website, where it's branched off of social services. And when we have a little bit better idea of what it's going to look like, I'd like to come back and talk to this group again about the partnership.
Yeah.
Community for Care is our local prevention council, so you have a strong hold in mental health and addiction services and prevention.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if we want to link our web pages or somehow.
Oh, I think absolutely.
them.
And we've had a very close relationship with the Promise to Jordan since it began. So I think we should continue that, unless anybody has some other opinion on that. That's
No, I agree.
great.
So we were kind of looking at the same time frame, turn of the year, really starting to try to buckle down on a few more of these things. So hopefully I'll have more to share with you in January.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other business they'd like to address? Okay.
Kristen, thank you for doing the update.
You're welcome.
Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I will.
Becky moves to adjourn. I'll second it.
I don't
All in
think
favor?
All right. Bye.
Okay,
will-
we are adjourned at 6:24.
All right, I
Thank
will
you,
end
everybody. It was nice
the
to see
meeting,
you.
and yeah. Good
Thank
night.
you. Good
Bye.
night.
Take care. See you soon.
Nice to meet you.